Welcome to the first multi-channel progressive web app system. This 12-minute video will touch on only the basics. To understand each part in greater detail, please view the video for that specific function. Or you can watch the step-by-step videos of how to build the progressive web app you need. It is important to note that although Mobsted is built to make mobile progressive web apps, the creation of the apps can only be done on a laptop or desktop with a 13-inch screen or greater. Right now, you are looking at the home screen of the system for creating apps. You can always access it by clicking the Mobsted logo in the top left corner. The home screen shows all the apps you have already created. From this screen, you can create a new application, access your top-level API settings, or manage settings for users. In the top right corner, you can see your account profile settings. As you can see, on each app icon, there is an action button which contains a menu. The actions listed in the menu are specific to the given app. For demonstration purposes, I am going to use a copy of an app which was designed as a missed call response system for our office phones. Each missed caller gets an SMS message with a link leading to the app. I will start by demonstrating the constructor page for app building, even though it is not the first step in making progressive mobile apps. The constructor is where you will spend the majority of your time. The Mobsted constructor follows a widely accepted logic for visual tools. It has three main areas: the Elements panel, the Device emulator, and the Properties panel. The Elements panel is divided into functional blocks. You can select any element and drag and drop it into the Device emulator. The Device emulator simulates how the app will look on a mobile phone. If you select any of the existing elements on the Device emulator, you will see its properties in the Properties panel, which consists of two tabs. On the Properties tab, you can name, design, and format the element. On the Actions tab, you can control how the element behaves. Please note that most elements can submit data to the backend, and that is controlled on the Actions tab. We will get to that fundamental part a bit later. But remember, this is the spot where you can select which elements do submit data. All you have to do is put a check on the box next to Create Event. As a result, anytime a user presses the element, a new entity or event will be created. It could be just an empty event that just stores the fact that the icon was pressed. However, other data from the screen could also be stored in the event as required. We will discuss these capabilities again later. The screen navigation bar at the bottom of the page lists the existing screens in the given app. Some apps will have a lot of screens and some will have just a few. When you click on the screen, you will see its properties on the Properties panel. Once again, in the Properties tab, you can change the visual settings, such as adding a background picture. But more importantly, you can set up a dialog to save your app to the people's phones in a nice and easy way, which is what progressive web apps are all about. Check out other videos in our catalog for more information about using the constructor. That video explains how to use all existing elements without coding anything, or how to insert custom-made HTML, JS, CSS, and even PHP code. Let's continue with steps for making an app by setting up how it will look on people's phones. Click on Step 2, Name your work. There are two different names for each app within the system. One is your internal name, or how you will call it within your company. The top two blocks here are for that purpose, to give it an internal name and description. The second name is the external one. It is what a person who saves the app to their home screen sees. To upload an icon and see how the app name and icon will look on people's phones, use this visual tool. This step is important because it ensures your app will be findable by the user on their phone in the future. Next, there is an extremely important tool to make your progressive web app look like a native one. This switch turns on or off the standalone browser mode. In other words, when your app is launched by a person from an icon on their phone, it is launched without any browser panels and looks like a native one. We highly recommend always having the switch turned on, except when you specifically need otherwise. There are some other features here which take into account the different capabilities of various operating systems. Basically, some things are only doable on Android and others on iOS. So our system applies some parts of settings automatically depending on which smartphone each particular user is on. Now let's move on to registration and security. Here you can set up rules for how users access your mobile app. This step has almost 100 logical branches. You can provide everybody a single access link and then just ask for some information to complete registration. You can set up a widget on your website to lead people to your app, meaning that when people log onto your website from a smartphone, they can effortlessly save your app. You can also limit your service to a specific list of users, like tenants in a building. You can choose how users prove their identity. Please note that all your actions here lead to changes on the device emulator on the right side of the screen. This helps you understand what your users will see as you select different options. Notice that as I change who can access the app, the options below it also change as required. The last thing on the screen is the ability to limit access based on a specific location. It is done with geofencing or IP addresses for network restrictions. We are done with this step. Now let's proceed to one of the most important building blocks of our system, objects. Objects in this example are the end users of the application. Objects play a central part in making sure your mobile app fulfills its role. They are the foundation of the app. An object is not always a user or person. This depends on the app and on its function. For example, we can make an apartment, a car, a piece of machinery, or even a printer in your office an object to be serviced by your mobile app. In our example, an object is a person whose phone call we missed. Here you can see a table similar to a spreadsheet with all the information on all our objects. This table can be customized to include the information you need. Just use Add Custom Column button. There are also some system-wide default data fields such as cell phone number and email. Some fields in a table may seem like a mumbo-jumbo, but they usually hold important information. For example, the column Last Login shows when the object or user last used the app. You can set up which columns are visible and which are not by clicking Setup Table. For example, the phone numbers of people who called us are currently not visible. You can work with any kind of data which you already have and in many ways. For example, you can import data from Excel or a CSV file or export all of it as well. Opening settings on any column gives you the ability to describe how the column behaves. You can also quickly set up one of several available types of REST API or SQL database connections to external data. For more information on all kinds of data integrations and also on our REST API, please find the separate video. Please note that the table also has a smart filter. It is a very powerful tool and you can use it to make your application automatically create reports or even trigger actions without writing any code. The smart filter can do simple stuff like make selections and calculations. For example, you could calculate how much money you have received through your app from people named John, who live in New York. However, our smart filters can also be used for complex actions. We call them triggers. For example, send a push message to all people named John who opened your app but made none of the actions you desire like payments. That's why we call them smart filters. They are able to trigger actions and also follow up on the results of these actions later. Filters are available here in Objects, but they are also available in another place called the back end. Let's take a look at the back end. So now we have again arrived to another fundamental word in our system, an event. An event is recorded every time our user does anything. Every action taken or every piece of data sent can be stored, filtered, and acted upon. An event can be just a fact of a button pressed, or it can hold data from the screen. Now, do you remember when I was demonstrating the constructor screen and I put a check mark next to Create Event on the image Access Your Account? I have the application open on my smartphone right now, and I have just pressed the Access Account icon. Look, there is a new event in our backend telling us the image was pressed. Each event has an incoming backend name which is assigned to elements in the Properties tab of the constructor. In this case, the backend name is Pressed Access Account. Each event can be opened to view its full content and to perform actions. These actions include a change in status, change of the responsible person, and text or photo commenting. These actions exist so that you can provide faster and better service to your customers. Also note that all events have AP access to anything within, meaning you can create, read off, modify, and delete anything from your outside IT systems like a CRM, accounting programs, or any other type of software. Let's go back to the main screen of Mobsted for the last two pieces of this introductory video. There is a button in the top right corner which has two options, Profile and Account Settings. We will not go into much detail since it is pretty clear and standard. Here you set up things like integration keys, SMS or email messaging, as well as inputting information on the accounts that your customers use to make payments to you, like Stripe or PayPal. And last, but extremely important, there is a piece of software available in each application's menu. I'm talking about all the mobile messengers bots. An integration with messengers like Telegram, Viber, Facebook, VK, and others. This capability opens many possibilities for your mobile applications. This is why we call ourselves a multi-channel system. You will provide users a choice of how to save your app in the form of an icon or in a form of a message channel. This flexibility for users, together with the ability to save an app in 2 steps without the native app stores, is what drives our system. It is also what has led to 5 to 6 times higher penetration rates into people's smartphones comparing to classic native apps. Thank you for your attention, and if there are any questions, please never hesitate to contact us.